Why not?
I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
It's easy feeling so long to keep. Baby, get by a minute into force. Oh, I didn't notice it's all getting full. But only when got him back, yes, I got him. I didn't think it ever come to.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cannabis and Coffee with me, Tamarijuana. It's another smoky day on the East Kootenays out here. We got a bunch of fires that have merged together, and I'm having a bit of a time breathing this morning, so bear with me with that. This morning I have Julie Chairiello with us, which is amazing, because Julie's one of those people that when you meet her, she's so warm and kind. You just fall in love immediately with her. Good morning, Julie. How are you?
Good morning, Tamara. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, thanks for coming on. So we were talking a bit before the show, but there's so much, we're talking that there's been so much going on in the last little bit for you guys out there. So we'll go back and start with how you originally got in, because I remember meeting you at the Treating Yourself Expo back about 6 or 7 years ago, I think 7 years ago now, and you were selling the magic, or the little Zephyr boxes, the little vaporizers.
The magic plate. Yeah.
The magic plate, yeah. And you gifted me one, and I just loved that little box. But that was our first meeting. And then what happened after that? Because you were in California then.
Yeah. Well, I got into the cannabis industry about almost 10 years ago now. And prior to that, I was in the health and wellness industry, the yoga industry. I sold an organic yoga clothing line, taught yoga to kids, managed a yoga studio, and worked with organic farming, and really was devoted to, empowered consumerism and the kind of sustainable change that we want to see happening on the planet. And when the economy tanked back in the 2000s, I got an opportunity to get into the cannabis industry, and I met the owner of a vaporizer company that had an inspiring ethos. And I became, really engaged and ended up deciding to come and work for the company because I had, almost 20 years experience in business, growing different companies, helping companies expand their reach. And so it was a perfect fit. And being, I fell in love with cannabis at 16. I was a classic stoner artist chick. I was a dancer, and I traveled to Amsterdam and Spain in the 90s, the late 90s. I had the best, most gorgeous kind back in the heyday there. And the chocolate, what they call hash in Spain, straight from Morocco. And so I was completely always in love with cannabis and loved what it did for people. And as new science started to emerge, even though I wasn't directly in the industry, I was always just really inspired and used it medicinally, and studied herbology for 4 years, became an herbalist, a Western folkloric herbalist, and started to see the synergy of all the plants and the plant allies and what they're here to do or help us to do as humans. And so it was a natural fit. And I was blessed. I got to travel the world with Magic Flight. I went to all the major shows throughout Europe and North America. I got to see all the different types of people, that were fighting millions upon millions in this kind of global genocide that we've seen, where people die and have their lives torn apart on a daily basis, fighting to have the free use of this plant. And I just saw the connecting thread between us all as humanity. and it blew me away. And I knew why I was doing this. And then I ended up meeting John, after Treating Yourself Festival. He was banned that year.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I ended up meeting him, actually happenstance, as the fates would have it, on the side of the road at 1 a.m. And the rest is history. I was going after a European master distributor, and John happened to be in that group. So I didn't even know John or see John, but ended up talking with him later that night. So that's how I met John, and that's kind of my little history in the industry so far.
That's been inspirational. Like, just the whole fact that, consuming cannabis for you has always been, something that you've always had in your life. And then I think a lot of us do that. We use it most of our lives, and then finally it's an epiphany. It's like, this is really making me feel better. And then you connect with the rest of the community, and then it really kind of absorbs into and becomes part of your life. So it's not, I don't like the word lifestyle, like, as far as like, it's a choice, but you know what I mean? It's not really a lifestyle, it is, but it's not. It's kind of like, it overcomes and takes over everything. But I don't want to say it's a lifestyle, because there's so many other things that we do that absorbs our life around cannabis, but it's good stuff. It's not bad stuff. So when you hear the word lifestyle, sometimes you think, oh, because that's what the cop said to me. Well, maybe if you didn't have this lifestyle, your husband would have a job at the mine. And I said, his lifestyle, he uses cannabis as a medicine. So what lifestyle are you speaking of? Or health? And I think that's what ticks me off the most about that word. Not that that it's a bad word, but just that whole stigmatization. You know what I mean? Oh,
yeah, the shaming.
Yeah,
the shaming aspect.
Yeah, right, absolutely. And I don't agree with that. I think that people really need to open their eyes and see what benefits we can use this.
Well, it's interesting, because you said something that struck out to me, because I just spoke with my grandma. She's 90 years old. She used to sniff me out and ask me why my eyes were red when I would come into the house at 17. And, she just got off the phone with me and said that her 90-year-old friend, they were talking, and she was giggling, and she said, I'm not getting any pain, in my body, and I'm getting all this healing happening. And my grandma said, well, what are you using? And she said, cannabis. And my grandma started giggling, because I have a picture of my grandma reading Skunk, and like, she's so different now. What were you going to say? And she started giggling, because she said, well, my granddaughter has this magazine, and I've started using it, and I call it my miracle cream. It's taking my arthritis away. And they started giggling. My grandma asked her, is she smoking it? And the woman said, no, I have a tincture. And she pulled out her little bottle. And it was just amazing, Tamara, because like you're saying, it's not a fucking lifestyle. It is a healing plant that has been criminalized, it has been stigmatized, and the people who use it have been shamed wrongfully. And those of us, like you said, who have adopted it as a lifestyle, are almost stewards. Millions upon millions of us around the planet are stewards, helping this plant just be what it was designed to be, which is a healer. It's not a panacea. It's not going to work for everybody. Not everybody needs to use it to appreciate it and support it. I mean, you're right. That kind of conversation that you had with that officer is old. It's ignorant, simply. And well, people as my grandma can show that.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is, he wasn't an older gentleman. He was a young guy. And that's what I kind of pushed me back. And I had to kind of say to him, you're not understanding. This is medicinal use, right? And that's why the whole stigma. And I think we've come a long way in 10 years, comparably to where we were 10 years ago, where we weren't even speaking of recreational usage at all, and they weren't looking at legislations being changed at all. We really have come a long ways. And with the medical program being what it is, as broken as that is, we still have that. So I think that, many of us are grateful to be able to have that paperwork in our hands. A lot of people don't want to have that paperwork in their hands, and I applaud them for that too. But like I said, we at least have that medical program in Canada, where other countries don't have that. Look at the U.S., and you go back and forth between the U.S. and Canada quite a bit. So you're one that can actually, contest the fact that it's not that easy in California. We all think, California is, it's not all that easy down there either. And with the federal laws not changing in the states either. It's state to state. So they're all living on the edge of their seats all the time down there as well.
Absolutely. 100%. There's a lot of misperception. It's interesting, the Cali-Canada connection. I know a lot of companies that, obviously California is the center, the epicenter of cannabis growing in U.S. for sure. It's the breadbasket of the nation, so to speak. And I remember in the 90s, and, Mexi weed was king. That's what I smoked when I first started smoking. And then literally like 2 years in, the kind started coming up down from NorCal, and the whole thing changed over a 10-year period. It was just insane, the kind of cannabis that we started seeing that was coming across the state. And Californians think that Canadians have this beautiful legal system with no corruption, and Canadians think that Californians, oh, you guys are legal, Prop 64, everything's all good. And it's funny because both systems right now are being harangued by greed, by poor legislation that isn't acknowledging what the people truly want and need, what patients truly want and need. It's really a very disheartening time. It's weird, like you said, we're sitting here and we could sing that, hey, cannabis legalization or destigmatization is coming. We've been on the pinnacle point for decades fighting for this, and there's so many inspiring things. And then on the other side, we have this dark shadow of greed, corruption, legislation that underserves the people. And, with Prop 64, and of course, recreational came forward. People can feel safer, but they have, new impairment laws and swabbing of the mouth. And, you know as well as I do that if you're a cannabis user and you're using it for chronic pain or to fight leukemia or epilepsy, you're going to come up positive, man. So you're a criminal. You're a criminal if you use cannabis and you drive. And this is ridiculous. This kind of legislation is ridiculous. It's unconstitutional. Also, the way that they've allowed the counties to all create their own kinds of licensing. So you have some counties where it's $250,000 to operate a dispensary, or to be a commercial grower, and the way they've separated out the tasks. They've really made it almost impossible to do seed to manufacture all the way through, which is what most craft farmers want to do. They've made it so that if you're producing, you can't manufacture. I mean, all these, you have to hire somebody to understand how you're going to run a legal business. And what's happening in California right now, particularly, just to give everybody an update, is that if you're a big guy and you are making millions already, then you're going to be ahead of that wave. You're going to be able to ride that wave in and pay those licensing fees and fight at your local, county legislation. You're going to be able to do that because you have enough resources. But a lot of the small and mid-sized companies are directly feeling the pain and the hurt of not knowing how they're going to keep their businesses going because their margins are disappearing. The money just isn't there. The cost of doing business is going up while the cost of their goods, the value of it in the marketplace is going down. So this is what we're seeing in California, and we're seeing it here in Canada too, with the way that they're trying to dominate the system with the LPs.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And that's, where crafting comes in too. And, I seen a posting yesterday about, how many kilos we should be able to produce as a craft producer and, what it would be a factory and what would be, the difference between crafting and factory. And we already know what the factories are producing and they're still not able to produce enough. And I think that's, disheartening for patients that are, on waiting lists with licensed producers because they can't get their medicine anyway because the licensed producers aren't producing enough. And then they're worried about, going to a craft grower or going to a dispensary because then they feel that they're going to, get in trouble because they're not following the, particulars of the law. And it puts a lot of patients in a real predicament.
Yeah, I mean, make a good point. It's like, where are the patients in all this? From my mind, it's beautiful and valuable when you have a medicine maker, a craft person that can service 50 patients or service 100 doors and doesn't need to go beyond that. The craft farmer benefits, the patients benefit, the business that's servicing the community benefits. Everybody benefits, and everybody's served well with variety, richness, beauty, art, attention to craft in a way that when all you care about is the bottom line, when all you care about is volume and profits for your shareholders, and all you care about is ultimately how are you going to make more money. You could be selling oil or you could be selling cannabis. It doesn't matter to you. There's something inherently wrong in that. And it's something that shows that the black market will continue, the people will continue to gather, the craft makers will continue to go under the radar. What's sad is that we're not going to have this right livelihood, this meaningful work, and this richness in our communities, which is what we were all longing for, where we could all work together legally and practice new style business, which is rich with community, philanthropy, empowered consumerism. These are the things that, to me, speak most about those of us that are fighting, the ones on the leading edge that are fighting for not just cannabis legalization or decriminalization, but also for a renaissance towards sustainability, towards organics, towards all these things that I was just speaking about.
I agree, Julie. We're going to take a quick break here, hon, and we'll be right back after a short break. And a song, I'd like to thank my sponsors, who are 12 High Chicks Magazine, Remos Nutrients, MUM, Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society, and the Haley Rose Foundation. We'll be right back after Chief Greenbud, It's Only Weed. We'll be right back after Chief Greenbud.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet. www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
The most important meal of the day. What's the matter?
There's no prize in here.
What?
Well, that's just lame.
I hate that. I remember in the 70s, there was a prize in each and every cereal box.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
You know what? I've solved that problem.
How'd you do that?
With this, the Supercharged Kit, brand new from Remos Nutrients. Each and every Supercharged Kit contains 1 liter Grow, Blue, Micro, Velo Kelp, Magnifical, Astro Flower, and Nature's Candy. You also get a shot glass, a syringe so you can accurately measure your nutrients, a sticker, a feed chart, and a prize in every box.
Oh, yeah!
What'd you get?
I got a Remo Nutrients lighter leash.
Sweet. Hey, Mikey, he likes it.
Hey, I got keys in my Supercharged Kit.
I think those are mine. The Supercharged Kit is available at your favorite hydroponic retailer. Get yours today.
So what are you doing? Nothing. Why not? Trying to get on the Lifestyle Radio website. Sounds like a cool website. Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it. You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Hello, Mr. Officer, and how are you this evening? You say that you're smelling something that you don't find very pleasing. Could it be the fact that I've been smoking weed? Yes, indeed. Yes, sir, Mr. Officer, I've got my hands behind me. Please don't use any more pepper spray, 'cause that last shot was blinding, I can't see. And it's getting hard to breathe, I'm in custody. Oh, it's only a weed, oh, it's only a weed. Oh, it's only a weed, oh, it's only a weed, it's only a weed. Hello, Mom and Dad, it seems I've got a little problem. The policeman thinks I'm dealing, and it's prison time he's talking. Could you please call an attorney just for me? I'm in need. Hey, public defender, when's my case going to trial? 'Cause I couldn't make my bond, and I've been in jail a while and lost my job. All for a quarter pound of pot, ain't that a crock? Oh, it's only a weed, oh, it's only a weed. Oh, it's only a weed, oh, it's only a weed, it's only a weed. Well, prison life is really hard, but when they let us in the yard, there's a man named Bubba looking out for me. He says that I'm pretty cute, but I feel like I'm being used. There's just got to be a better way, 'cause I'm not gay. Hey, future employer man, there's something I must tell you, 'cause when you run all my numbers, well, you're gonna find my record I did time. Having marijuana is a crime. I wish they'd have an open mind. It's not a crime. Oh, it's only a weed, oh, it's only a weed. Oh, it's only a weed, oh, it's only a weed, it's only a weed.
And isn't that the truth? It is only just a weed. Welcome back, guys. We're here with Julie and talking about, over the break, just some of the disheartening things that go on, and how, the people that have fought for what we're, supposedly be getting in legislation is leaving so many people behind. And how the fact that, people that have fought and worked, and, you get for example, the dispensary that runs out of Kimberley, when I first moved here, I, approached them and said, hey, I know I run a club and for patients and this and that. And I was told, no, we don't like your kind of activism. My first thought was, my kind of activism, which fought so hard for you to have that business that you're running now. And they've never been community, like for the cannabis community wise, they do donate money to the small community of Kimberley for the mainstream. And they do give, discounts for patients. But in reality, they don't want to be part of our community. They don't want, and I find that disheartening. I know there's other dispensary owners, I believe, that are probably like that as well. The other one in Kimberley is not. She's very nice and willing to put forward anything she can to learn more. And I think because she wasn't part of the community before she started her business, she's wanting to learn what the patients need and want. And I think that's the difference. We were talking about that over the break too, right, Jill?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, substance versus lack of substance. And we were talking a bit about the industry and how there is this overwhelming presence still of money making as usual, ego boosting as usual, business as usual. And it's really soulless. It's lacking in soul. And I feel that it's in direct contrast to what the plant is attempting to teach us and heal within our society and within our bodies, but also within our society, this idea of symbiosis or the integral nature of the world, and how it does matter how we treat each other. It does matter how we do business. It does matter how we make money. If we're making money off of polluting the earth and hurting people or giving people a substandard product, what value does that money hold? It's lacking in soul. And I think that, part of what inspired me originally to work with Skunk and work with John is John's incredible legacy of work. 15 years devoted to organics, true living organics, sustainability, helping growers grow cleaner medicine globally, planting those seeds, getting people to get really into it, and promoting companies that were change makers in some way, on the leading edge in some way, and the thought leaders, the ones that were holding the line for a better conscience, better thought processes around these things, the activists, the ones who are supposed to call people to a greater understanding, a deeper understanding, so that, for instance, a dispensary owner would know what they want to get behind and support, free medicine, X amount of, dollars per week devoted to free medicine for those who have not, like you do, like John has done. He's given hundreds of people secretly. Nobody knows that the people that he's helped. And it's really sad, because right now I think those of us that are fighting for a more soulful, more connected industry that's actually healing our communities, healing the way we do business, healing the way we grow our medicine, that we are all feeling a bit demoralized right now with the state of the industry. The industry right now is showing itself out with a lot of greed and a lot of scrambling to get a position, and a lot of looks like crabs in a barrel. As soon as one crab scrambles to the top, there's one pulling him down, and it's real treacherous and real ugly. And I think that at the same time, I do see millions of us still globally that are holding the line actually for a renaissance. And that's the whole thing. With John, I got really inspired by his commitment and what he's done on behalf of education. And then when we came together, Skunk was at one of its lowest points because the raids had happened almost 5 years ago now. And at the time, he was working with all the major genetic producers, the leading edge breeders who were, really bringing forward some incredible things. And all of that had to stop when those raids happened. And it really threatened all those relationships. And that's when I came on to help John to attempt to protect and then to evolve the brand. Right.
And that's something that, because of the legalities of everything that's going on. But Skunk has survived this. And the highway has then morphed out of that as well, which is all good things that have come from this. And like I said, a Skunk has been like right from the get-go. Like when I first started, it was, one of the first publications besides Cannabis Culture that I had. I didn't buy High Times magazine, to be honest with you. I thought it was crap. But I always enjoyed reading the Skunk Magazine and the Cannabis Culture, because and treating yourself too as well, because there's educational things in it for people, not just, scantily dressed women smoking bongs and, and advertisements. And that, I really find is a difference between good publication and not. And Skunk always had good articles in it with substance. And I think that's one reason why I really, and the forums and everything else. And to be honest, Lisa Kirkman was the editor back then too. And I was, so it all kind of just it came together for me because she was in Alberta from Montreal, and I got to know her. And like I said, so many things have changed. But with the highway, you're still going ahead with everything hardcore with the Skunk and the highway, and those publications are coming out regularly now anyway, still, right?
Well, I'll tell you the update on that. So last year we launched the Highway California and the Highway Canada, and we launched it in the black, which was a huge feat. We had many companies that were green renaissance companies that were evidence that this sustainable change is there, that these companies are practicing this style of business, that they're offering these types of products. So it was a real, important victory for us to have fought and won the kind of mortal wound that the raids were 5 years ago. And we took Skunk still goes in 5,000 Barnes and Noble doors across the nation in the U.S. And so it still has its reach, but we took the number of issues down, and then we launched the free vehicle. And what happened like a month later, literally, is our credit card processor of 15 years kicked us out.
Oh,
and
I know.
We thought it was going to be no big deal. Like, we're going to get right back up on that horse and keep going. And it wasn't. We had to apply to 15 different companies eventually, and we used Square. We had $9,000 tied up. We had this, we had that. And for a magazine, which, we were not making bank, maybe a pre-roll company,
right.
The cost of print is high. And so for us, it really hurt us. It really hobbled us in a way that both John and I did not expect.
Right.
And we were right smack back into this kind of mortal kind of situation and fighting hard, and it felt really like being on the front lines, going back for, you think you're going to have a break, and then boom, no, get back out there on the front lines. You are fighting, and we're bloodied and bruised and battered. And there we were fighting again, which was just, wow, and it was sad because 6 companies also are delinquent in their pay to the magazine for the same exact reason. So this banking stuff is really damaging. And so anybody who thinks that we're in a legal kind of wonderful, great moment, I mean, no. I know companies that are 15-year-old companies that almost died, or some that have died because of these banking issues. So it's still a real big issue, and we're not out of the woods by any means. We're actually in the process of evolving, and it's been quite heartbreaking, actually, because what happened was with Highway California is at the same time that we were dealing with our own banking nightmare and having our resources not being able to run and having to follow up with checks and PayPal and all this kind of thing, which is nuts, especially with, stoners.
Yeah, exactly. No.
That check was in the mail 5 weeks ago. Where is it? It's just a figment of my imagination. And so, God bless everyone. It's not to point the finger, but it's definitely to say when you can't run those credit cards, it can definitely hobble your business in the cannabis industry. And this is a very real reality that many businesses are facing. I have one company that is just got kicked out for the 4th time this year. So that hurt us. And so now, 8 months fast forward, we have Highway Canada, which is going along quite well because we're up here. We're able to go to the events. We're able to talk with the companies, and the craft makers are fighting hard to still be there. We had, back when the rulings first came through, recently, the most recent ones, we had some companies drop off and say, look, I'm just going to go under the radar. I don't need to advertise. I'm not going to put myself out there. So we did lose some energy there. But then we've been gaining it because of, again, the subversive kind of rebel nature of people to say, we're still doing business. You're not giving us a system we could work within feasibly, legally, which is what we want. Then we're going to continue to do business because the people are asking for it. The people need it. The people want different delivery methods. They need them. They don't want just bud and herb and pills. They like variety, and they like to walk a block and talk with a person and have a relationship. This is community. Community is just as healing as the plant itself. And so we see Highway Canada still going strong. Highway California is not right now. And so we're in a kind of a mourning period where we're evolving, and the way we're evolving is exciting. But as I said, we're evolving after 5 years of being on the front lines, fighting for the magazine and fighting for what we believe in, that we feel is worth standing up for in this world, in this industry. So I can tell you about that, but I don't want to just keep on talking. But I'll tell you how the highway is going to evolve when you want to.
Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back after that, and we'll talk more about the highway evolving, and we'll also touch on what John's been, with his court case and everything as well. So we're going to take a quick break. I'd like to thank my sponsors again, who are 12 High Chicks Magazine, Remos Nutrients, Mom, Maritime Originated from Medical Marijuana, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners, Haley Rose Foundation, and our song is going to be Lab Cats, Coffee and Pot, my introduction song. We'll be right back. Coffee and Pot, my introduction song. We'll be right back.
Hi, it's Deb from DMA Hydroponics. Whatever you are growing, from vegetables to medicinal cannabis, we have everything you need to succeed. From seed to harvest to processing and extracting, we carry all the brand name products that will help you produce, process, and consume high-quality medicine. Our knowledgeable staff of qualified growers have decades of experience with home production, and all possess either MMAR injunction status or an ACMPR registration certificate. We offer the largest variety of products available anywhere, and if you don't see what you're looking for, just let us know and we'll find it for you. Visit our store at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, Ontario, or visit our website at bmahydroponics.com. We can be reached at 613-967-9888, Monday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/BMAHydro and drop us a line at BMA. Our motto is your success is our success.
Please hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
It's easy feeling so long as you came. Dedicate about a minute intervals. Oh, I didn't notice the skunk getting full. But only with coffee and pie, chest, pie and coffee. I didn't think it'd ever come to a stop. I sink into the clever ways I'm writing, and in the mornings all the things I forgot, they come back in tenfold. I'm in love with women, only with coffee and pie, chance, pie and coffee. Coffee and pie, chance, pie and coffee. For me, don't think that I need something new. No. I give myself help all through the things that I do. How will I choose or to be fooled by the truth? Never again, so it's coffee and pie, chance, pie and coffee. For me, 5 o'clock bottoms and we hit the stars. It's always booze that what's to you, sink inside my shoes. It's always put it up out of bottom coffee's just how fast it seems. It's always booze that what's to you, I love the abuse. It's always put it up out of bottom coffee's just how fast it seems.
All right, and we are back, and that with Julie, and we were trying to talk over the break and get back to what we were talking about before, which is the evolution of the highway and where it's going in the future.
Yeah. Thanks, Tamara. Well, so John and I have been doing some soul searching over the last month or so, and we basically, I was feeling really inspired by thinking back to my yoga industry days. I read this one journal called the Elephant Journal that launched a global platform that invited thought leaders from around the world to contribute. And I started to think, similar with what HuffPost is doing. So we're going to be relaunching the Highway Global online, and it will have a content contribution engine that helps people who are contributors, who do have something important to say in their area of expertise, to come on and easily become a part of this kind of green renaissance movement, which in our mind, no cannabis cultural magazine is really upholding that energy of organic sustainability, new style business, empowered consumerism, and choosing companies that somehow embody that in some way. And so for us, that feels the best in the industry. I feel like that's the best of what this industry can do for the world, is that it can bring that energy with it and meet up with people like Elon Musk with Tesla and Tom's Shoes that's doing the philanthropy tied in with commerce, and all these other companies, not just in the cannabis industry, that are attempting to do new style business and live on the planet in a more sustainable way. And so that's really where we were feeling most inspired, even though also feeling quite disenchanted. And so that we're going to be launching in the next couple of weeks. And essentially we're going to be, right now we have 40 different content partners. I've already been doing it over the last year, that if you're an educator, a thought leader, a change maker in some way, like Camus would say, to live so free that your very act is a revolutionary act, your act of living. These types of people and companies and craft makers and rebels in our society that are still holding the line, and invite them in as contributors, not to compete, but to show solidarity in action, to show, hey, here's 100, 200 best minds. And because John and I have the relationships globally, we're excited to start inviting people back as an energy that is different than our, focus with Skunk and the Highway Canada and California, which was more strictly North America, which at its height, Tamara, we have 65,000 magazines and 9,000 doors across North America, which
That's
has,
amazing.
Received a mortal blow with Highway California. Basically, I just, brought out the Chalice Festival, a large craft event in Cali, beautiful craft event put on by Hitman Glass and Dougie. And then, of course, you have the Emerald Cup up in NorCal. And we don't know if that energy that we've been working on, protecting craft culture in California, if we're going to be able to maintain that, even though we had thousands of doors across California, AM, PMs, and 7-Elevens. But because of these two things combined, craft getting hit and companies struggling, the banking issues, we really had to reassess how are we going to do this. Plus, couple that with the fact that companies say that 60% of their business is done on Instagram right now. And you have to start to listen to the marketplace and say, how is the marketplace changing? And how do we need to continue to evolve and change with it?
Right. And that's, the green renaissance. I love the way you put that, because that's the way, it's peaceful. I was speaking with a realtor yesterday here in town, and he's actually going to be running for Cranbrook City Council as well. And he's very cannabis minded. He's not naive to the fact that the tides are changing. And that was really an eye-opener for me to speak to somebody in my own community that doesn't consume cannabis, that does pay attention to what's going on with the laws, does pay attention what's going on with her community, because he wants to be sure that when he runs for that council seat, he has a good handle on that. Because he's not naive to the fact that in this area specifically, because we're in the East Kootenay and the West Kootenay, there's a lot of crafting that goes on in this area. And if the crafting industry, and let's face it, the mines that we have working out here, we've had fires, the logging situation that we've got with the new tariffs from the States too, this little area of BC is going to be starving. And if we don't embrace the cannabis industry out here for crafters, this whole valley is going to dry up. And I'm pleased to hear that some of the people that are working towards becoming city councillors or working within our community are seeing this. And that was kind of an eye-opener for me, like going from the cop that said, oh, your lifestyle can't work at the mines, to, oh, well, you know, I see this as a new industry coming forward, and I can understand it. So like the renaissance moving forward with mainstream, which is kind of, you know, enlightening to a point, and kind of scary on the other point, because I'm thinking, oh yeah, you're another one of them that just sees nothing but dollar signs, right? And that's, I think, the disheartening part of our community, where you say the greed. You know, you see people, oh yeah, you guys must make lots of money because you're, you know, no, actually we don't. We're struggling, and our crafting industry is being taken away from us so that we can't bake and we can't give, and like, you know, looking at it, I've got infused honeys and infused, you know, all kinds of stuff that the LPs are not offering. That I enjoy having a little bit of infused, you know, honey in my tea at night before I go to bed. That's stuff that you can't get through the licensed producer corporate. So all these little companies, like you said, even in California, it's really scary for those people right now, because we don't know what's going to happen with the legislation. And that's going to leave, like, even with, you know, the magazines and stuff, like, you know, in reality, those aren't really quite legal in Canada either, as from what I've been hearing too. So we're still on that cusp of criminality and stigmatization and anything that has to do with it. Then there's the other side of it saying, well, you know, it's not that bad, and peaceful people, and let's see this, you know, flourish. But there's still that fine line. And I think a lot of people are...
Yeah. It sounds schizophrenic listening to you talk about it. You know, you just sound like, wow, this is our life. No wonder we have PTSD. This is fucked up. But it is a push-pull. It's like, wow, you know, you see the whole vista. You see all the beauty and the potential, but you're still getting beat up. You know, you're still getting bashed in the head. And so what kind of dichotomy is that to live?
Exactly. And that's the thing. And like, even watching, like, for example, I'm seeing that right now on Facebook that Chris Goodwin's posted that they've got their bail conditions variated now, so they can actually move across the country, go back to work for Cannabis Culture, and go back to Pot TV. But for all those months, Mark and Jody and Chris and Aaron and Brittany have all been sitting there with their hands tied, and literally with their hands tied for something that they have done 15 years and longer. Like, I just don't understand where mainstream gets off telling us that these businesses aren't legit, especially when they're paying taxes, especially when they're paying employees. You're putting people's livelihoods in jeopardy. You know, a lot of these businesses support families. Children will not eat if mommy doesn't have a job being a bud tender, you know? And I don't understand how they can't see that being any different than somebody, you know, working in a retail store of any kind. It's a job. The taxes are paid. The people pay their CPP and their unemployment. There's nothing, you know, the only illegality about it, I guess, is the substance that we're, you know, providing. But for patients, it's not. And that's the thing I think we really have to get through to the mainstream is, once you have that ACMPR, you're legal. Whether you like it or not, whether, you know, you have to jump through those hoops, whether you're sick or whatever, there are people that have fought for years to get those ACMPR people.
But this is what's heinous.
Because the doctors aren't signing still. And then the doctors still aren't signing. Like, you know, you can get clinics that you have to pay for, or you can be, you know, bottlenecked into the licensed producer. So where's freedom in that?
And I did want to touch on that. Thank you for bringing that up, because I think this is a really, you know, an important thing that we're all facing. And why do we feel demoralized? Why is it hurting right now, this current system and the way that they're going about it? And this is it. I don't even think that, you know, it's really the licensed producers that are to blame. I believe the Canadian government created a beast when they created this licensed producer model. And what they did is they put these companies, they made them jump through hoops, dump millions upon millions of dollars in, put them into a position that they would have to become maniacal about dominating the marketplace, if they were ever going to get the kind of profits that they've, get their investment back.
Right.
And so what they've done is they've created a monster. And what's sad about it is that the government is in bed from the beginning with this model. And so not only have they created a monster, but they are actually it. They are part of it. And what's happening with this kind of very just heinous action of like Project Claudia and going after these dispensaries, even though the people continue to say, this is what we want, this is how we want, our medicine, hell has to freeze over for them, because for them, there's no way they're going to go back to their shareholders and say, sorry, no. And so what's happening right now is the beast is hungry and is seeking its food, which is money and high volume and, subpar medicine, and the black market flourishes, and the companies continue to fight, and the dispensaries continue to open. And so it is, over the next 10 years, what are we going to see? We're going to have to see something that is a bridge in some way, because the dispensaries aren't going anywhere. Like you said, many counties would light it up right now. They would just light it up. They'd create hundreds of jobs, thousands of jobs, millions of jobs that would help, as you said, help the economy, help the government. The way they went about it is, I have to say, one of the most asinine things I have ever seen, because they've created their own problem, and how are they going to solve it now?
Well, originally it was because they didn't want patients growing their own. So they took our program, and said, sorry, you've been growing, your own cannabis since 2001, but you can't do it anymore. Shut everything down. We've got these guys lined up for you. So, and I think that, and then of course the Allard ruling came in, which allowed us to regain our grows. And I love that John, last week I seen on his Facebook where he put that when they call the black market the crafting market, then we have gotten somewhere. And I really believe that that's true, that the black market should be able to morphosize itself into a crafting market so that everybody has a position in this industry where they can actually provide for patients in all different levels, in all different forms. Like Smith ruling said, we can consume cannabis in all forms. Yet they're saying, no, you can't make a brownie and sell it. Well, what the hell? Like, how can you say in all forms and then turn around and say, okay, well, you can't do this, you can't do that? That's not what the ruling said. And it was in the Supreme Court that they said in all forms. Yet now they're making little, deductions on the all forms, right? And that's, for a lot of patients that don't want to smoke. There's hundreds of millions of people out there that like to eat cookies, that want to have a candy, that want to just, not consume it through a vape pen or through a joint. They want to be able to eat it and juice it and do all these different things, with the plant, because from tip to root, we all know, and it's coming out more and more now, how beneficial the root portion of the plant is alone, never mind the rest of the plant. So from tip to end, there's so many things that plant does. And again, it's a plant. Like, I can't alliterate that enough. It was, the grows are toxic. No, they're not. Like, it's like fighting with a 3-year-old about what cannabis is and not sometimes. And it's infuriating.
Absolutely. And I love what John said too. And I agree that what has to be done, and we're going to obviously have some constitutional fighting going on. But what has to be done is regulations put in place that allow craft. And if the LPs buy from craft makers, or craft makers sell to dispensaries or LPs or whatever, ultimately that's what's existing now. But you've made criminals out of one and businessmen out of another. Yeah. And this is the hypocrisy that we're living, and it's not going to stand, because as Trudeau says, as he stands up there and so smilingly says, these lies, that the kids are, they're fighting for the kids to be protected, and they're fighting against the black market. These lies, these reefer madness lies, need to stop being told. And we still have a long way to go, I think, with that, Tamara. We have another 10 years, 20 years to fight for the kind of world that we want we want to see.
I know. I agree, and I hate to say that because it's been 10 years, but I mean, like I said, we've come this far with all the battles that we have fought and won. So I've got still a bit of fight left in me, and I know you have lots of fight left in you too, because with everything that's going on with John. Now, where are we with this court case? I know it's been 5 years since he was charged, and he's getting ready for trial, so that must be weighing on you guys heavily too.
It totally is. I mean, it's been a black cloud over our relationship, our business, everything this whole time. I came in, he's a Spartan, and I came in as Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, and we fought together. And now with his case, Paul Lewin is his lawyer, excellent constitutional lawyer, incredible man. Yes. Jack Lloyd has assisted, others have consulted. And essentially, they have a choice right now that they're facing. He's going to get back to trial in April 2018. He right now is still being forced to wait. They did find out some more information this last time that he went, which just went about a month ago. And basically what they found out is that, if he pleads guilty, he finally knows what they're trying to get from him. And he, and then he also has to decide because, if he wants to fight for his innocence and the constitutional right to have a beautiful seed culture, to have many varieties of genetics, because we need many different types of strains and different properties of the plant that will help different ailments. He knows this. He's met and he has so much knowledge, and yet he's been stymied to share it. While at the same time, they have LPs that are going overseas and buying up companies that sell seeds in. You've got the new suggested laws stating that clones and seeds will be sold by LPs. So here now you have something particularly ugly is you've got them trying to control both the selling of the seeds from abroad and the buying. How sick is that? And meanwhile, putting out experts in the industry, people who have devoted their whole life to tracking land races, to doing, beautiful. We have some incredible breeders up here in Canada who and now what are they doing? And they're trying to dominate and control, just like Monsanto has done, where they come in, as an herbalist 20 years ago, they were going after other healing plants. Things like Gotu Kola or the other beautiful herb for depression that they went after. It's escaping my mind right now, but
wasn't that the St. John wort?
St. John's wort, exactly. They went after St. John's wort. And it's sick because any seed, any plant that has healing properties for us, just like mushrooms, anything that's helping humanity heal and wake up right now, they are against. They are trying to control. They are trying to dominate. They are trying to bastardize the seed, poison the seed, poison the soil. And it's ludicrous because they're poisoning themselves. If we poison our soils, our seeds, and our waters, we poison ourselves, we kill ourselves. And this is the idiocy that we have to see on display. And this is the case that John is fighting. So right now we're waiting until April 2018. We're in discussion right now. Are we going to go to fight it constitutionally? And there's a question now because of all these new laws. Will it really help people if John and Paul and the whole thing, if they decide to fight a constitutional case, which can cost upwards of $150,000 or more, is it worth it if it's not going to help people and if it's not going to help to change what's happening, which is a domination, where they're saying only the LPs are going to be able to allow this to sell seeds and clones? What about great companies out there like House of the Great Green Gardener or others that are just
Jordan of the Island.
Jordan of the Island, exactly. People that really do deserve, as artists, as scientists, as craft makers, they deserve to explore their science.
Yes.
And they're
Yeah.
not being allowed to.
I know, and that's so like, and that's exactly it's cutting our crafting ability at the knees. So if and one of the my fear is too, like, okay, for example, you get your clones or whatever from the LP. What are they doing to them? Like, it's not exactly what you got, which you would have gotten from a seed. So I'm not. Yeah, my opinion on that is boycott. But I've been boycott the whole system.
Yeah.
Right right from the get go, and I'm not trying to be nasty to my friends and stuff that are working within the system with them. I mean, that's not where I'm at. I'm not mad at you because you're working within the licensed producer. I'm not mad at the licensed producer because they're there. I'm mad at the domination of it all. I'm mad because
the government created
freedom and choice, and that's it.
Yeah,
You're
the government
taking my
created
freedom.
it. Exactly. Yeah. No, exactly. John and I feel the same way. We're not going to sit there and demonize our friends who've gotten jobs with the LPs. We're not going to support, the LPs ourselves. I mean, I've worked with some of them before, back when we hoped that there would be a more fair marketplace, and then we stopped working with them. But we've reviewed strains. We've tried to basically put the information out there. And again, like you said, it's not about us drawing swords against them. It's about the root, the seed of the issue is the domination and the greed, and how they've crafted this and put this into place, and how they continue to ignore what the people truly want and what the people will continue to do. Like you said, boycott. Yeah, I will. And many others will too, because if they try and say only these people can sell seeds, people who are not experts, people who do not know what they're doing, people who are not devoted to this as a life mission, why should I buy from that, entity? And so it's just foolish.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing. Like, I don't understand why they wouldn't want to be part of our community. And that's, I think, the most disheartening part about it is they just see a patient as a dollar sign. And it's not about, nurturing that plant to its best possible, capability. And that's the thing that you have to listen to the plant. And if you're just looking at a book and walking through the aisles and making sure that everything's not got bugs and this and that, yeah, you're doing your job, but are you nurturing that plant to its best potential? And, as a craft grower, I know that we do that. We talk to them. You talk to your ladies, come on. And the therapeutic portion of growing that goes along for a lot of people too. It's okay for grandma to go out to her garden to, garden her tomatoes. Well, maybe grandma wants to garden her medicinal, medicine out in the garden there. And it's therapeutic for her too, because she's out of the house, she's in the sunshine. If you have a garden in your house in the wintertime, you're going down into the forest sunlight. And it's just beneficial all the way around if you can grow your own. And I recommend people, if you can, grow your own all the time. I am not saying don't, but my stance is, as long as you're using the licensed production system, you're proving to our government that system is working. And as long as they think that system is working, we will never change anything. And that's my biggest stance on the licensed producer, is because as long as they're seeing the numbers and they're seeing patients running, start the car, we got a new LP, let's line up and wait for that guy. They're going to be, see, our program's working. Why do you need to grow your own? You don't need to grow your own. You don't need crafting. We've got all these great companies that are. So that's why I say boycott, because you're proving.
Oh yeah, I had a prominent person within a prominent LP tell me, kind of shaming the dispensaries, saying, well, they're not operating within the law, and
how do they know?
We don't need vape lounges. And I went right back at him and said, hey, I said, you really need to get your head checked. I was just like, man, going to a vape lounge and being with community and talking with people and having a sense of connection is just as important to our health as having a bud show up in the mail. And I said, furthermore, who the heck as a cannabis user wants to have to plan a week in advance that what medicine they're going to need? I mean, hey, I just want to pop down, just like I picked up a bottle of orange juice, and I want to go down and get some gorgeous herb from the corner store. I mean, this is ridiculous what they're suggesting. I mean, what are we living under? It's like some kind of prison cell. that they're trying to portion out, how we're going to work with this plant that we've been working with for decades. So just to finish with John's case, anybody out there who can donate to the fund, it's helpful. We're right now at a crossroads. John is doing his own soul searching to see how he's going to fight this case, and or if he's going to, which is very disheartening to one's soul, to take the other way. Which again, we don't know which one is going to actually do the most good or do the least harm, and that's kind of the crossroads. So definitely know that, and if you can support and work with the highway in any way, it helps us. It helps us fight the case. So just for people to make that connection would be incredible. And that's what I wanted to say with that.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on my show. We're going to have to wrap her up. And again, thank you, and best of luck to John. And like I said, I understand where he's coming from, because I was one of the ones that had to stand in front of a judge and plead guilty to a cannabis charge and take my licks because there was no other option for me. It was jail or house arrest, and I took the house arrest because I didn't want to go to jail, and fighting it, didn't have the money, wasn't an option. So we're all thinking of you guys out there. Like, it's just like to have to battle in the courts it steals your soul from you. It makes you feel like you're not human anymore, and it's a really tough spot to be in. So big hugs to you guys, and thank you again for being on my show and for everything that you guys do. For Skunk Magazine, if you guys want to be able to get a hold of a Skunk Magazine or a Highway Magazine, you can probably contact Julie directly online, or check your local bong stores, because they might have them in there. Skunk's been published for many years, so if you don't have,
you can go online and buy it too.
You can, absolutely go online. But if you don't have them in your local bong stores, ask your bong store why, and ask them to bring them in for them, because you want to buy them off the shelf. So again, we'll thank my sponsors, who are 12 High Chicks Magazines, Remo Nutrients, Mum, Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners, and next week I will have Jade Bridge on our show to talk to us about what she's been doing for the last little bit. You guys have a great week and take care. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
Thank you, Tamara. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
So what are you doing? Nothing. Why not? Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website. Sounds like a cool website. Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it. You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show